Hi, my name is Lucy Bologna and I'm the spokesperson for the Cancer Association of South Africa. And we're so excited. Today, we're chatting to Simon Clark. And Simon happens to be the first leader volunteer that arranged the first CANSA Shavathon that took place 20 years ago. So we wanted to find out a little bit of more information about what inspired you and how did it go, and tell us what happened that day.
Well, the whole story of Shavathon actually started in 2001. And I came across an article on an Australian event called World's Greatest Shave for a Cure. And essentially, I looked at this and I thought, Australians, South Africans, they play better cricket than us, but generally we play better rugby. I think there's a similarity here. And there has to be so much scope to bring this event to South Africa and do it. And essentially, I approached the Cancer Association and they looked at me, or you looked at me and you said, I'm nuts. So I said, no, I'm not. I think we can make this work. And we approached all sorts of corporate sponsors and they all looked at me and said, you're nuts. So in the end, we decided, and it was round about April, round about the Splash Festival, we decided, well, we're not getting anywhere. Let's try launching it and see what happens. So we had a launch party at the boardwalk, and we got all sorts of people to attend. And one of my friends shaved her hair to try and get things going. And from that, I got a phone call 2 or 3 days later from someone at Nedbank saying, I know someone at Nedbank who wants to be involved. Can you come and see me tomorrow at 8 o'clock? So I was like, yes, dash there. And Nedbank said, well, we think you're nuts, but we're willing to give it a chance, but we're only willing to give you 50,000 Rand. Now, our plan was to run an event that would be running at 50 venues simultaneously for 24 hours. So 50,000 Rand equates to 1,000 Rand a venue. That's not going to get you very far, even in the best of circumstances. So we came up with a plan to print bandanas, and we'd ask people to register. And the registration fee, if memory serves me right, was 10 Rand. Or no, it might have been 50, but it was a small sum of money. And the bandanas, I think, cost us 7.50 Rand each to produce. And this allows us to raise the extra money we needed to make the event work. If memory serves me right, I think we spent something like 27,000 Rand on spray that year. Wow. So the numbers were extremely tight. But we launched it in April, and then having got Nedbank on board, I was able to get Radio Go on board, and having got Radio Go on board, I was able to get the Herald on board. I seem to remember we ended up with the situation where neither of the media partners were that interested. So in the end, I ended up playing them off again. It was very much a hustle to get the event to happen and make it happen. We really, really, really did it on an absolute shoestring. But it was an absolutely phenomenal event. And yes, I was 25 at the time. And if I'm honest, young and wet behind the ears. And I do have to give some credit to my dad, who's now a retired engineer, and he helped me put together all the event planning, because, as I'm sure you'll know, 50 venues simultaneously is absolutely nuts.
And to think, 20 years later, we have over 200 malls that actually take part. Every year it gets bigger. We've got so many workplaces. So it started off small. You mentioned something specifically about, getting a small budget. That was such a small budget. If you think about starting, like you say, 1,000 Rand per venue. But I think there must be a real reason why people did it, and why, when we thought you were nuts at the time, but I think of what an incredible achievement this program or this project has become. It's something that involves everybody. Everyone knows somebody who's affected by cancer, the disease. So why do you think people take part in CANSA Shavathon?
I think it's on two prongs. First and foremost, there's obviously the cancer element and the social responsibility element. And the second part is that it's fun. part of being part of a community. And something we did in the very first event, which I think had a lot to do with why we really, it literally almost went viral, in that when they registered for the bandana, they got given a sponsorship sheet. And they were asked to run around and ask all their friends to sponsor them to do it. And that meant every participant in the first event was essentially our own network
marketer.
And we need to remember that in 2002, Facebook didn't exist. There was no sort of viral sharing or anything to get it going. So in a way, I think our sponsorship sheets were almost the first equivalent of a Facebook page in sharing. Only our participants were going to their friends and saying, I'm going to do this. Won't you sponsor me? And we had some participants raise absolutely ludicrous amounts of money individually. I can think of one woman who I think raised 50,000 Rand.
Wow.
And that was just, it just led to this, it got everyone talking about it. And it just grew and grew and grew and grew from there.
So Simon, at the time you had shopping malls and there was quite a strong sponsorship strategy where you got people to say, come sponsor me. And I'm sure there were schools involved at the time.
We did. We had Lorraine Primary got very involved, and they actually had their headmaster raise a huge amount of sponsorship, getting all of the kids to sponsor him. And that became almost a team networking thing for the school. And from there, I believe from your side, you've had companies get involved, and that's gaining significant traction as the event's gone on.
Absolutely, which is great. We've actually seen, strange enough, for the last couple of years, a great interest from companies, workplaces, businesses, civic organizations, service clubs, sports clubs.
Yes.
I think and like you say, with schools, it's a wonderful team building opportunity. It's a way of showing your work colleague, your sports colleague. I think for schools, it's actually incredible. It's about teaching young people about cancer, the disease, but how to support somebody who's been affected.
Yes.
Because I think it must be quite traumatic for a child or a teenager who's been impacted by cancer, and now to know that your mates are doing Shavathon, and it's lots of fun. We can see that it's got this wonderful, fun, exciting element to it. So exciting. See what you've started. Well done, Simon.
Thank you. It was good fun. I remember on the actual 24 hours, I think I got about 2 hours sleep, and they were in a chair at the Boardwalk Casino at the 24-hour event that we had. So it was a really, really, really cathartic experience. And then, of course, once the 24 hours was over, you had all the tidy up. You had to get everything back from the 50 venues, tally everything up. And it was absolutely incredible.
Well, you've started an incredible legacy. You spoke about the registration fee. You know that we have not put up that registration fee in so many years, because you started it. I know it was managed by an outside external supplier at one stage, and then CANSA took it back in-house.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, I think about 9 years ago. And just before our 10th Shavathon, I remember that part. And we've kept the price the same because, to us, and that's such an amazing feat that we could keep the donation fee for people wanting to come and shave and spray at the 50 Rand for so many years, because it's about that symbolic gesture. It's more about, we want something to do to show support for somebody who's affected. I mean, you spoke about your friend and how brave of that friend of yours that shaved her head. So we've often seen that. We get so many stories of people that call us and say they're growing their hair for a year now, waiting for the next Shavathon event. I think you've done something absolutely amazing. And as the Cancer Association, we want to say thank you. But tell me about, and you spoke about the sprays. I mean, where did you find the sprays? Because I mean, I know a lot of questions we get asked are the sprays, is the spray going to come out the hair? And we know it washes out, and we always have to make sure it's made out of vegetable dye. But tell me about the sprays at that time.
Again, back in 2002, finding spray that was suitable to spray people's hair with was a whole other ballgame in its own right. And in the end, we found an Australian company that manufactured the spray that was suitable. The problem was they and the South African agents didn't want to sell it to us. So we then had to persuade the English, ended up persuading the English agents of the company that they would supply us with the spray. But that meant getting aerosol sprays from England to South Africa. And air freighting aerosols is a nightmare in its own right because they have to have special packaging and special permits and all the rest. So we ran around and we managed to persuade somebody to sponsor the packaging, and SAA agreed to sponsor the air freight to a degree. We still had to pay for it, but we got it at a reduced rate. And then SAA lost the spray.
Oh my goodness.
And 2 days before the event, they found the spray sitting on the runway at ORT somewhere. But we then had to organize to get it to Port Elizabeth. And the night before the event, I had no spray. The spray landed in Port Elizabeth at 2 o'clock in the morning. And 2 o'clock in the morning, I had to drive up to PE Airport, collect it, not quite off the runway, but not very far short of off the runway. I literally went in, got to go in at the back through all the freight areas and collect this box of spray, and then go dashing back to our office. And we then ran around breaking open this packet and distributing the spray to the 50 venues so that the courier company had been, we begged, borrowed, and pleaded that they would do it on time, could collect the spray to make sure it could get to places like East London, which is a 3-hour drive from PE, in time for an 8 o'clock start. So we did have all sorts of adventures, but it's, at the end, it all came through and all came good.
So what was the response that morning from some of the venues?
It actually, I don't want to say blew up in our faces. That's not quite the right expression, but it was absolutely incredible. I can remember getting everything settled, and the venues weren't supposed to start till 8 o'clock. And I got a phone call from St. George's Hospital saying, Simon, we set up the thing in front of casualty and we can't cope. We need more people to shave. And so I couldn't find anywhere else. So I dropped everything and spent 2 hours helping shave at St. George's. And from there, it was just a case of constantly moving around and checking out. And the responses were incredible. It really was absolutely, absolutely incredible, the number of people that took part. And I don't know if I still have the documents, but I'm hoping I can try and find you the spreadsheet of the breakdown of the original funds raised and what came from each venue.
Well, actually, we have a picture of that original, of the check that was given from
Yes.
Nedbank. I mean, you raised almost R1 million. It was, what, 700, 800,000? I mean, for that time,
I think
incredible.
it was that what was actually also, the check was what we had when we did the handover, but I believe money actually still kept trickling in for a few months after that. It was absolutely incredible. And if you think 750,000 Rand plus 100, I think it was 750 and 125 is because, what, that's 875,000 in 2002 is a gigantic amount of money.
It absolutely is. And it started something. Shavathon is become such a compelling program or a fundraiser that has got such meaning,
Yes.
So it's carrying on. We get very excited. It's our favorite on the list of every fundraiser that we have every year. Everybody prepares, we do the training. So we're very excited. We wanted to say thank you for starting such an incredible legacy. And do you have a final message that you'd like to share with the CANSA staff and volunteers who are all working hard away and preparing for our 20th Shavathon anniversary?
My simple message would be more or less my message as to how it started. And if you're thinking about it, just do it. It's so much is achieved by just getting out there and doing things, not talking about them with one. Get out there, join in and do it. And that's where great things happen.